Frankly, the new Chevy Colorado and the GMC Canyon have me a little bit worried. I'll admit that as a truck enthusiast myself, I was excited to see GM pouring some money into the mid-size truck segment, which has been withering away for years. But as the numbers started to come out on this truck, some troubling questions started to pop up in my brain. It seems a little big, doesn't it? Are they really going to charge that much for it? And is there even a market left for small trucks in the United States? So here we are in sunny Southern California to try to find the answers to my questions. Is General Motors going to prove that there is still life in the mid-size truck segment? Let's try to figure it out. So when it comes to styling, GM borrowed a lot of the looks from the worldwide Colorado, but they also tweaked it to make sure that this truck would fit into any town USA. But don't let some of those Euro looks fool you. This truck and the worldwide truck have little in common. This Colorado just uses a shrunken down version of the Silverado's fully boxed frame. Now GM also did a good job differentiating the Colorado and the Canyon. The Canyon has that more bold-faced, straight grille look, whereas the Colorado, it's more angular, a little more slick looking. Overall, I think they're both great looking trucks, and more than anything, it's just nice to see something fresh. The two competitors to these trucks, the Tacoma and the Frontier, they've barely been touched for almost a decade, so more than anything else, it's just nice to see something new in the mid-size truck segment. Pricing is one of the make or break factors on this Colorado. Now, a base Colorado will start for just about 21,000 bucks, but a loaded up Z71 version is gonna go for about 35 grand. So this pricing structure was established to keep about a $5,000 to $6,000 cushion between the Colorado and a comparably equipped Silverado. But there is a problem with that. Recently, Silverados have been leaving the dealership with heavy incentives, meaning that they've been going for a lot less than the sticker price. Now, if GM wants to sell any of these mid-sized trucks, they're gonna have to be really careful about that, because guys buying these, they wanna feel like they got a good value. So let's talk about the business end of this pickup truck. Now with Colorado Canyon, there are two bed lengths available. There's a long bed, which is 6'2", or the short bed, which is 5'2". Much like the rest of the truck, Chevy has just taken a lot of the tech that was introduced on the Silverado and brought it down to the Colorado. Namely, you get the same cleats in the bed to tie stuff down. You also get those bumper integrated steps, which in this application are actually a lot easier to use than those other two trucks, because here they sit a lot lower. They're much easier to step into. Another great feature back here is that damp tailgate. It doesn't crash down when you open it, and it's lighter when you're going to close it. The real story back here though, and one of the exclusive things to Colorado Canyon, is this gear-on system. Essentially, it's a cargo hauling system that fits into the pre-existing cleats. And I've taken it in and out today, and I can tell you that it's actually pretty easy to use. This is gonna go a long way towards marketing this truck as a lifestyle truck. A truck for the guy who wants to head out to the mountain, hit the beach, or ride the trails. Like with a lot of other things on this Colorado, the interior is pretty much stripped directly out of the Silverado, and that's not a bad thing. Now my favorite thing in here is everything is simple. Chevy's Uconnect system, very easy to use. You got these big toggle switches, same thing, they're easily identified and they're easy to grab. Now there are a few USB ports, including one in the back seat, which is pretty cool, and 12-volt chargers, but I will say that I am a little disappointed that there isn't a proper plug in this truck like there is in the Silverado. So there is one other new thing about the Colorado, and that is that you cannot get a regular cab. Now the crew cab is quite big. It actually has 3 extra inches of rear seat legroom than the Tacoma, and for full-size adults, it's pretty comfortable back there. So just how big or how little are these trucks? Well, when you compare the longest Colorado Canyon to the longest Silverado you can get, there's a 15-inch difference, which is quite a bit. Now when you're driving, you don't really feel the length difference, but on the trails or in a tight parking lot, that's going to be a big advantage having a smaller truck. What you do feel when you're driving though is the width difference. These trucks are just a lot skinnier than those half tons and they feel a lot more maneuverable. On the other hand though, the height is actually almost the same as the Silverado half ton. In these trucks you get between 8.1 and 8.4 inches of ground clearance, but in the half ton you only get 8.6 inches. So really you're not gaining too much when it comes to the height going for the smaller truck. So yeah, the size difference isn't crazy big, but the real story, and in my opinion, the real reason you're gonna want to buy one of these trucks is for the fuel economy. Now this model we have here, which is a V6 all-wheel drive, is rated at 20 miles per gallon combined. Now that is 2 miles per gallon better than a comparably equipped Tacoma or Silverado. And in my experience in the real world, the Tacoma can be very, very thirsty, whereas the GM trucks, it's not too hard to reach or even beat those EPA numbers. On the other hand though, the fuel economy is playing against something in here, and that's the 4-cylinder. If you get that small 4-cylinder engine, you're only getting a 1 mile per gallon difference. So who exactly is going to buy that smaller truck? To bump up, you're only spending an extra $1,200. I just don't see a market for it. Maybe it'll be sold to the fleets, but for 1 mile per gallon, do yourself a favor and get the V6. Now, like I mentioned, they do feel pretty maneuverable. Now that is in part to this electronic power steering, which is really nicely dialed in. It's nicely weighted, you feel connected, the truck never wants to wander. It just has a really confident feeling to it. Same goes for the throttle and the braking. Now the V6, it's not crazy powerful. When you put your foot into it, you never say, wow, is this thing fast? It just feels like enough. In this truck, it's just a solid amount of power. Now, we had a chance to put a boat on the back, which weighed around 5,000 pounds, and even with that much weight, the engine did a pretty respectable job. Rolling around the hills of San Diego, I was never really worried about the engine, gassing out, going up a hill. There was always enough low-end grunt, and the transmission seemed fairly responsive. Now, there were some times where it seemed a little reluctant to kick down, which is probably because these trucks are geared towards fuel economy, but if you have it in tow haul mode, it does a pretty good job. I already mentioned that great Uconnect system, but another thing in these trucks is a brand new 4G LTE Wi-Fi hotspot. Now that's coming to a lot of the General Motors lineup, but these small trucks are one of the first vehicles to get it, and we've been using it all day today and it has worked great. You can be outside the truck, inside the truck, the internet signal is strong. Just one more little convenience feature that I think is going to be a really strong selling point in the dealerships. So another really important selling feature of this truck, and one spot where it just blows the Tacoma and the Frontier out of the water, is the refinement. On the inside on the highway, these trucks are very quiet. They handle smoothly. They give you that sort of nice luxury feel. Whereas the old Tacoma and Frontier, they just feel rickety and they're loud and they like to wander around the road. Frankly, these trucks just feel modern, and that is where GM is going to steal a lot of buyers away from the Japanese brands. So it turns out, after spending some time with the trucks, that my fears are mostly unfounded. Yeah, they are pretty big, but when you get behind the wheel, they actually do feel considerably more maneuverable than the Silverado and Sierra. Now, when it comes to pricing, just like I mentioned, as long as GM sticks to the sticker prices, they've actually done a pretty good job spacing these two trucks out. But let me fill you in on a little secret. Now, this V6, it feels good, but you never really feel like you're owning what you're doing. So my best advice to you is wait until 2016 when that little Duramax diesel comes out in these trucks, because that is going to take this from a good truck to a great truck.